and it says, and we're talking like this, and then you introduce yourself.
Which is happening right now. What's
I
up,
know.
profitable stylist? Here we go again. We are continuing the stylist journey. This is part 2. This is their first impression when they walk into the salon, when they meet you, when they see what's going on. And we're just going to keep doing this series for a couple of more segments.
It's going to be real boring, so you guys stay tuned.
That's why we do it.
I mean, I don't think what we talk about is boring, but you know what? I told one of my stylists the other day, that is where the big money is made, in the boring service. I hate to say it, but when you're doing a service, which is not this week, and you're doing a highlight, if you're trying to do something new and fancy and creative and you're learning every single time you do somebody's color, it takes too much time for the money you're charging. You got to wait till you're famous to do that kind of stuff where people will pay for you to experiment. But in the beginning, find out what you're good at and just keep on doing it and charging and get faster at it and charge more for it. And that's how you make money. And that can be boring because it's just the same thing over and over. So then you got to make the conversation fun. So yeah, we started with the client journey, and man, we did everything up to the point to that client hasn't actually walked in yet necessarily. Now they're experiencing you. And it's a good way to think of, I'm like shaking everything. I don't know if I should wear my glasses or not. I love talking about this journey because I like trying to get into the client's head when I'm doing anything. I like to try to figure out how other people are thinking. You know, I'm always looking at people thinking, you're lying or you're telling the truth. Do you believe what you're saying? And so in this case, it's like that client sees the salon, they see the sign, they walk in. How do they get in your chair? They call, they leave a voicemail. There's so many ways these days. They book online, they talk to your salon coordinator, or they listen to your stupid voicemail. Now, some of you guys are highly offended because you think you got a great voicemail. And it might be good, but most of them are terrible. I mean, it's crazy how many hairdressers I've called over the years that says something like, this voicemail has not been set up. The user has not set up.
Those are my favorite ones.
Yeah. We're in a texting world, and they're like, I don't really want a voicemail. I don't check it anyway. I want them to text. But if you're in a situation where you don't have a salon coordinator or receptionist, and you've got some phone number put out there for people to call, I mean, your voicemail at least should say, please don't leave a message. Text me instead. And that's okay. That's better than just no voicemail or a voicemail that you don't ever check. So I don't know, a few little pet peeves for me. But if you're going to have a voicemail, I mean, it can be so many things. You might as well, on your voicemail, keep it short and simple, I think. And maybe you should say text, but you should advertise the service you enjoy doing the most or the one you make the most money doing. That's what I say. It's your opportunity to let something other than yourself work. You know, say something like, hey, this is Bernard, expert in hair extensions. Leave me your number and I'll call you right back. You know, and that way they're like, oh, hair extensions.
It's an actual study that's made, and it's a proven thing. Oh, somebody bought you a coffee. That's awesome.
I bought this
you
coffee.
Bought your coffee. No, it's an actual proven thing, statistically proven thing. When there is silence on hold versus how does it perform when there's an actual message, and what is that message? That there's actual proven studies that show the productivity that becomes afterwards. When you are explaining a very specific thing on that message, it's giving somebody direction. Otherwise, it's a free-for-all. It's the difference of getting a 30-second voicemail versus a minute and a half long rant because the person is just thinking unprepared of what to say because they was expecting you to answer. They wasn't expecting to leave that message when somebody first dialed. It's all psychological thing.
So they need to know what to do. One of my most favorite, I've been licensed now for about 30 years, maybe 31, somewhere around there. And I still remember this guy, and he's still in the business. Glenn Michael, we should have him on one day. He's like a coach now, personal business growth coach. But I remember what he said. He came to the school and talked to us about how to handle a customer when they walk in the door. And this was 30 years ago. There was no internet. There was none of this going on, you know? And what he said was so powerful. First, he said, think about this. They don't know you. They came to your place for a reason. They heard something. They think you're an expert. They think you're way better than you think you are in the very beginning, till you start talking. Now, you might prove them wrong or right. You might prove to them that, oh, you're an idiot and you don't really know what you're talking about. But think about it like this at first. Think that they think you know everything. So everything you recommend today, they're going to seriously think about getting no matter what. So the very first thing he said is he did a test to kind of talk about what you're saying. He said a customer would come in and he would say, hey, Miss Sue, how are you doing? Stay right there and I will be right back. And they would stay right there. And then the next week, for every client he did, he said, hey, how are you doing? Have a seat in that chair and I will be right back. And he'd go do what he needed to do. And they would sit in the chair. So then he said, go and put a smock on. He realized, wow, in those first few minutes, clients do whatever you tell them to do. They expect to be led, like you're saying. So if you tell them they need to get certain services, they're going to do that too. Now, don't take advantage of that. It'll work for a little while, but then you'll be found out and then you won't have any business. But if you're truly helping people look better, feel better, improve, then what you do during a consultation is where I want to go with this next. Then that you'll make more money, you'll make them happier, you'll have more referrals. You need to be, like you said, you need to tell people what to do. So when they first come in and they're making an appointment and you get to talk to them, the salon coordinator, receptionist talks to them, you have to give them choices that are all yes choices. What day, not what day do you want to come in where they don't know what to do, is today or tomorrow better, and then morning or evening, and then 9 or 10. Give them a couple of choices, get them in there, and then when you sit down, I mean, I want to skip to the consultation so bad. I might be going too fast because it's one of my most favorite things to do is sit down and talk to somebody and figure out what they want to do. I was so bad at it in the beginning, and I'm so good at it now that I just love sharing this part. Anything else we should talk about before we get to that?
Yeah, so what we have to remember is that when somebody is first walking in, that first impression, okay, so I am of a different opinion. The first time somebody discovers who they are is when their experience starts. That's my opinion. Most people feel that when somebody first walks into the salon, the first step they take in, that's when their first client experience starts. But to me, how were you advertised? How did they find out who you were? In what way are they
Your reputation.
Yeah, right? So when they first walk in, depending on your setup, how easy is it for them to discover what are they supposed to do when they first open the door?
Right.
Is your front desk 5 miles away and they got to walk through a whole retail area like a maze?
Didn't even know, right? And they walk in and they're like,
and then they don't know where they're going. When they first walk in, is your chair right there? And they're like, oh, am I in your space? Excuse me. Right.
Or nobody greets them.
Nobody greets them. If somebody walks in and they're just standing around like they're at church waiting for the priest to eventually start saying something. Right. So all of these things.
So you feel lost.
And then your waiting area, if you do have a waiting area, is it one chair like a doctor's office and they're just sitting there twiddling their thumbs? Is there something to drink? Is there something to eat? And what is there to read? Is it a magazine about some Hollywood BS? Or is it an actual list of services or something that you specifically, like a portfolio, that you can use to advertise yourselves while they're waiting for you? How are you generating that feeling? We always say we don't know what the client is supposed to feel, but I don't agree with that. We are dictating by the environment that we are creating how we want the client to feel and what that expectation should be. We set that standards. We get too nervous and let everybody else dictate what the standard should be. It's your business, man. Do it the way you want it to be. Now I'm getting passionate.
Right. So you get that client in the salon. a lot of times, like you said, they walk in. My staff was a little surprised the other day. I was doing a training, and my wife walked in, and I said, "Would you sit and talk with us for a minute?" Because this training was on shampooing, and I said, "Vincey, sit here for a minute. I want you to tell your experience where you just got a service done." Mm. She went. We live about 30 minutes from my own salon. She went to a different, like, blowout type bar to get her hair done, and she does it quite often. And the staff were like, "You go to another salon?" They were not happy about that. I said, "Yes, to test you guys out, to see if we compare." I mean, she got shampoo, blow dried, and styled in like 35, 40 minutes. And it's taken my stylist an hour or more. What is going on? And they're like, "Wait, what? What did they do?" She said it was a 7-minute shampoo. So she starts talking about her experience and how she liked it and what she loved about it. That's not a bad idea. Go to another salon and get a service done. Maybe it's better when you're on vacation in another city, so the local stylists don't start talking like, "I think she's going, I think he's leaving." But, you know, the gossip in our industry is crazy. But if you can experience a service in another salon, that's a great way to kind of test what your experience is. So at some point, you're trying to get them in your chair to talk to. And it is crazy how many stylists say, "Follow me," and they go straight to the shampoo bowl. You have no idea what they want. And, you know, it's more common with men because most of the time you're just going to be cutting them. So you just assume you're going to shampoo and cut their hair. They might want color, highlights. I mean, even some guys are getting extensions. I mean, they might want some eyebrow waxing, ear, nose waxing. They might want or need other services. You have no idea why they're there. You should, even with customers who have been coming forever, start with even if it's just a little mini consultation. And I just go through 3 basic steps always in my consultations. I really developed them when I was doing extensions, but I go through 3 basic steps that I'm going to go through here in a second. But when you sit down with a customer, I think one of the most important things at some point during that consultation, you guys already know you're supposed to talk about the service, but money. You got to talk about the money. Too often in my salon, I've had clients at the end of the service say, "I had no idea it was going to cost that. I can't afford that. There's no way I'm paying that." And I'm like, why did you do all of that and not communicate to this client that it was going to be $200, $300, $400? How could you just expect them to know? How could you just think they would know this? You got to tell them. Well, it wasn't extensions. It's just highlights. That's what we always charge. So my basic pattern is 1, 2, 3. How did you hear about us? Because are you paying for marketing? Are you advertising? Are you doing your grassroots? Are you going door to door like we recommended and handing out cards? And so how did you hear about me? That's the very first number one thing you should be asking clients when they walk in. It's a little bit of an icebreaker. Sure, you should know their name. If you don't know it, hopefully you already know it from the appointment scheduled. But how did you hear about it?
Actually, even if you do know it, you should still introduce yourself. If it's the first time, you should still announce yourself.
You should. Yeah, and I don't put that on the list because I feel like that is like a no-brainer.
It is, but you'd be surprised.
Right. Yeah, so we'll list that as number 0. Introduce yourself. Then ask them, "How did you hear about me?" And you can kind of do that while you're walking to the chair. "How did you hear about me? Who sent you? What sent you?" And then you'll know that you have a nice sign, or you have a nice Facebook post, or you have some nice friends, or some nice customers, or that tattoo artist you've been going to. You know, you're getting your sleeve done over a few weeks, and they love your hair, and they keep sending their clients to you, and you're like, "Thank you so much." Maybe you're doing the tattoo artist's hair for free, so they keep sending. So whatever it is, you just need to know where the people are coming from, so you can kind of help massage that little area of your marketing so it continues to work. And then quickly I get into number 2. And this is different depending on what service, but it's basically, what are we doing today and what do you know about it? So let them talk. When it was extensions, I would always say, "What do you know about hair extensions?" If it was hair replacement, "What do you know about hair replacement? Have you been to any other consultations?" If it's just color and highlights, what do you want today? Have you had this before? And tell me how it works. What's your experience normally when you get it done if it hasn't been with me? I want to know what they loved and what they hated about what they've done before. And then number 3 is the money. So how'd you hear about me? what are we doing today, and what do you already know about it? And then you've got to talk about the money. And this is an awkward one for people. They don't like to talk about money. So I actually have a list of like 4 or 5 different things that I've experienced with people about money. My personal favorite is, what did you think this was going to cost today? I just ask. Most people say, well, you can't do that in my city or that city or up north or down south. People around here it's crap. People will tell you about the money. I've done it in every city, and not every city, but almost every state in the country I've done it, and people don't mind talking about it. I'm getting ready to get a sprinkler system in my yard, my backyard. And the guy said, did you have a rough idea what you thought this would cost? And I was like, oh my God, he's been to my class. And then I'm getting ready to do some SEO with a website that we're putting together for one of our extension businesses on the phone yesterday. And the guy said, if we do Google AdWords, do you have a budget of the most you could spend on the Google AdWords before you pay my fee? And I was like, people ask. They ask your budget. The word budget, to me, budget sounds like we're trying to like we're trying to save, like we're broke and we only have so much money to spend. And I don't want to remind people that they have a budget. I'd rather say, what's your goal?
So I always refer to it as your lifestyle. Like when I'm teaching classes, we always say, you have to qualify your client and make sure that they can afford it in their budget. But when we're talking to the actual client, I always say, does your lifestyle allow you to be able to come back in? Because I know you're probably very busy. We always give them, you got to do it respectfully. You can't just flat out be like, hey, do you have
broke?
money? Can you afford me? That's not nice, right? But it is a serious thing. It does need to be addressed. Because here's another thing that I always bring up too. Anybody can save a couple of bucks in a month or two to get something done when they really want it done.
Definitely.
But the strain of continually saving up that couple of bucks to keep getting it done over and over and over every 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 4 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it is.
I wouldn't bring that up. I don't want to remind them that
No,
it's
no,
going
no,
to keep.
I'm saying that's what we got to think about.
Yeah.
And respectfully,
yeah.
we got to address that during a consult.
So one of the more softer ways approaching it for me was, do you have a limit? Do you have a limit? Do you have a spouse, a significant other that said, you better not go over this amount of money at the salon today, or there's going to be trouble at home, and they're happy to give you that number most of the time. Sometimes they only have cash on them. So you need to kind of know. And I say, because listen, I want to give you the best look I can for the amount you can afford. I don't want to start talking about things that are just way out of what you were expecting to pay for today. So give me a rough idea what you think today's service should cost. And then as we're talking, I can say, they give you a price as like $150. You can't get 3, 4, 5 processes of color. You're not going to get ombre, balayage, roots, and then come back with some highlights over the top of everything. That's just not going to happen. But at the same time, it's one of my techniques to get a customer used to coming to my salon is the multiple visit technique. Most things, especially today, that clients want, I want to say can't, I should say shouldn't be done in a one-day service. And so sometimes you have to do the highlight and then the low light, or vice versa, or the lifting all the hair and getting the lights in there and then coming back and rooting it later, the next day, the next week, the next month. And so somebody went really dark for the winter and now they want to be platinum blonde for the summer. Talk to them about slowly going blonder through the late winter, through the spring, into summer, and get lighter and lighter as the season progresses. It'd be way healthier for the hair. The hair's growing out. It's a slower process, but it's more money over more time, over more appointments that you get to make right now. So that's been one of my strongest techniques or tactics is I love what you want to do. We can't do all that today. Let's do that over the next 3 or 4 visits. And then you kind of locking them in and making some future money also.
When I get new clients at the salon, especially for hair color, the most common thing I hear is, so I'm looking at their hair and I'm saying, like you're saying, right? What are you looking to get done today? And usually I say is, what what went wrong? Why didn't you already have this to begin with? Why are you here? And I take a little bit more, and it's kind of like a little bit more direct approach. It's a little more rough.
Yeah.
But especially with hair color, I want to understand, what am I about to inherit? What am I about to potentially have to correct? And was the other stylist trying to do the right thing? This person is being impatient? Or is this person was told the wrong thing for their type of hair, and the stylist overpromised but couldn't deliver on that promise? And you'd be surprised how many times a new client sits in a chair and says, I was at the salon all day, and this is still how I look. And so the stylist told them,
a better look. Which brings me, they were promised something better, or they were told, yes, we can do exactly what you're asking for. And the hairdresser goes in the back and screams to the other hairdressers, oh my God, I have no idea if I can do this. I just told her we can do this. And I'm thinking,
try to do it in one. They try to do it in one go.
So this is the next most important lesson I've learned in the hair, in life actually, but definitely in the hair business, managing expectations. And well, I'm gonna define that, because most people would say, I don't really know what you mean by managing. Basically, under promise. It just happened to me yesterday. I'm getting a brand new website put together for my salon, and we've been working on this for a few months. It's a pretty extensive website, and the lady, I met her in San Diego at this last American Hair Loss Council meeting I went to, and they said, if we start next week, we'll be able to launch by February of next year. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's a long time. And so we're actually going to be launching next week in December, 3 months early. They managed my expectations. They didn't overpromise and stay December and then push it to January, push it to February. Then all I do is get pissed. Instead, now I'm excited, because I have low expectations about getting started in December or January. I'm thinking I'll be happy with February. That's what they said. If it goes a little over, oh, well, it'll be okay. But now that we're launching in December, I'm so excited we're going to start making money with this new website like much earlier. So with hair, I want to be platinum blonde. Maybe it's not possible, and you just say, this is more realistic. Some people's hair just can't do that. Let's shoot for this. Is that okay? Get them to agree to something a little lesser, but then try to deliver a little better, maybe even the goal. How much happier are they when you actually get to that blonde? If you got them,
that whole impression. Yeah, that's that whole first impression. It really is important, because it builds respect. It builds respect for both you, your business, your brand, your salon, your image, whatever it is, right?
Right. And then if it does take 2 or 3 visits to get it, that's okay too, because you told them it would, and you do less today, a little bit more next time, a little bit more next time. They're so used to coming to you on Sunday when they thought they were going to church. They end up at your salon because you're the third place. And they're like, why? I guess I was listening to an audio book and I just showed up at the salon. That's what you want to happen. When you got clients just showing up in your parking lot on the wrong day, or with their kids still in the car because they forgot to drop them off at school, you know that you are just in their brain. And that's what you want to happen. You want people to just show up for no reason, because they just enjoy coming to you. You take care of them. They're used to coming to your place. Their car just automatically goes there, because their brain is the I'm thinking of the Tesla. I can't wait to get that car with the automatic driving, and I can just text and read my emails while I just show up at work. And
you still have to hold the steering wheel. You still got to be there watching.
Right now, legally you do, but eventually you won't.
All right. Now,
go ahead.
The other thing is the environment of your area, whether it's the station that you're sitting at. I can tell you how many times I see this when I am at somebody else's shop, somebody else's salon. You walk in, the client prior is just getting out of their chair and is walking away, and the stylist is saying, oh yeah, come on in and sit down. spend 2 minutes and clear your station. Wipe it down. Do something. Pull the hair out of the brush before you pick
Off
up
the
the brush
chair.
to the next person.
Yeah.
know?
When you sit down, could you just rub back and forth and clean my chair for me?
No, but it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Clear your station. Here's another thing. It's not only your station. I know you can't control the next station next to you, but if your neighboring stylist is a slob, that reflects on you. If your boutique's got a bunch of tchotchke stuff on it, that's okay, fine. But there's got to be some organization. Look, I go to Cracker Barrel for breakfast. You ever been to a Cracker Barrel?
When I'm not with my wife, because she would rather something else. I love Cracker
But so
Barrel.
when you first walk in, it's a hot mess. That whole retail space, that boutique, is a hot mess. I always get confused and get sensory overload when I first walk in. Do I want a dinosaur? Do I want a board game? Do I want, like, what do I want? Do I need this snow globe?
That's hilarious.
And then you
Doesn't
finally
bother me at all. I'll walk straight through it because I don't
You
give
walk
a
straight
crap
through.
about all that stuff.
see you focus. You can focus. I'm a squirrel. So I
Yeah.
get sensorily overloaded real fast, So that's what you got
I'm
to think
usually
about your
hungry.
stations.
Show me the food right now.
You're hungry. Yeah, you're hungry.
Yeah,
But that makes
so
a big
that's
difference.
interesting.
So it's not only the front end of the salon, it's the back end of the salon as well too. What would you consider the back end of the salon where a client would be normally walking around?
Well, it depends on your setup, like you just said, because we just changed our structure. We used to be like reception chairs. You walk in, you knew to sit down. You could see the front desk, and the coordinator could greet you right away. But we put a bit of a boutique in the front, and we compare it to Cracker Barrel. Actually, walk
Oh.
through all this stuff. Hopefully, you buy a few things before you get to the desk and say, "Hey, I'm here." And then the waiting area is through the cutting area and back by the shampoo bowls. So it's a little different, but it requires a front desk manager, coordinator, receptionist, somebody to talk to people. So she says, "Hey, how you doing? Come on in. I mean, feel free to shop a little here if you want to. So and so is not ready for you just yet. She'll be about 10 or 15 more minutes. She'll run a little late. We moved the sitting area back there by the shampoo bowls." So she has to tell people. So it works. They have to be led, but at least they know they can shop. They can look at some things, earrings, necklaces, little handbags, or clutches. I'm learning all these new words. I said, "Oh, little purses." And my wife says, "That's a clutch that goes inside of the actual purse." I'm like, "A purse and a purse? What? Why do you need a purse in a purse?"
You
I
know
don't have
more
a
than I do at
in a
this
wallet.
point. I don't know. I still haven't figured all this out.
It should have a pocket to put everything in. I don't even have a wallet. So we're going to end here soon, but I'm going to give a little bit of a teaser because I hope we remember to do this. My After doing a really good service on a client, I guess we're going to go through service next time, what happens during the service possibly. And then at the end of the service, what do you do to keep that client forever? This is how I got clients to forever, how I got them on my schedule for a whole year. When I stepped out from behind the chair, I'd say about 85, 90% of my clients, probably over 90% of my clients were booked, but at least 15. I would do about 15 to 18 months in advance, about a year and a quarter, year and a half in advance. Every October, I would start working on scheduling all of my clients through the next, not this March, but the next March. So a year and a half in advance. And I had no trouble doing it. But I got to the point where I'm not going to give away all the secrets now. I'll stop now on that. We're going to talk all about that next week because that is what changed my life. I had a hairdresser come to work for me, and he said something about, what are you doing there? And I said, "Oh, I'm just rescheduling the client." He said, "I like how you do that. Where'd you learn that?" I said, "Well, I've been doing this it was like about 6 or 7 years. I've been behind the chair, and I was doing artificial nails, scheduling people every 2 weeks. You kind of had to make their next appointment, but I never did my hair. So I started doing it for hair for a certain weird reason that came up that I'll talk about next week. And when I did, this guy comes in and he says, "I I just spent $300 to go to a little 2-hour class last week, and that's all they did was talk about why and how to reschedule. And you just do it? You saved a lot of money. I said, well, you've been doing hair for a year. I've been doing it for 7. So I'd say I got about 5 years of mistakes on you. I wish I'd have spent $300 5 years ago and have been doing this. I'd be way ahead. Don't think that I'm ahead of you. I've just been doing it and screwing up longer. That's all.
So remember, it's the experience. That first impression is a full experience. And if it's starting off on a high to the point where they're excited enough to come give you a chance to have you do their hair and have you give them a style, let's keep that experience at that high the entire time. Let's try not to have turbulence or like a roller coaster going up and down throughout the time that they're there. Make sure that they know what they're supposed to do when they first walk in. Manage that expectation while they're there. Figure out if it's reasonable. Can you reasonably provide what they're asking for? Can they reasonably afford what they're asking for? Is your salon clean? Your front, your station, your bathroom, your shampoo area, the entire image of the salon overall. Is it meeting the experience that you have in your mind? Is that translating to the client's mind? That's what this week's all about.
That's a good summary. That was a good summary.
Good summary.
I'm out.
All right. Let us know what you all think. Give us some questions. Actually, I would like to know what it is about first impressions that you all think, or about managing expectations means to some of you.
What do you agree with? What do you not agree with?
Yeah.
Let us know down below.
We'll catch you all next